of the Ghoulfriend Hour. I'm your host, your ghost host, Morgan Feza, and tonight we are joined by some longtime friends, and you might remember some of their faces, DSGI, and I'm super excited that they're here with me tonight because we're going to touch on some exciting revelations that we had that we have waited kind of a long time to kind of rehash from my visit there back. I think it was maybe, I don't know if it was 24 or 25, but we'll try and figure that out when I bring them on. But let's bring on Maureen and Andy and Gina, and let's get into it. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks so much for joining me again.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. So kind of getting into it, Gina, if you want to give us the lowdown for maybe some of the people that missed our first episode, who you guys are, and a little bit about the fantastic spooky place that you guys are able to, lead tours on and all this fun, exciting stuff.
Yeah. So our team is Diamond State Ghost Investigators. We actually were established back in 2005 under our old team name, Delaware Ghost Hunters. And then in 2009, Delaware State Parks reached out to us and asked us to partner with them to lead paranormal tours out at Fort Delaware in the month of October. So those tours have been going strong since 2009. And then in 2012, we rebranded our team name to what it is today. So we're a nonprofit organization, and we have about 14 team members on the team right now. But yeah, it's all been good. And for people who don't know where Fort Delaware is, it's a fort out on the middle of Delaware River on an island called Peapatch Island. And that fort was actually, the fort that's there now is not the original fort. The original fort actually burned down. And so in 1848, they started building what is now Fort Delaware. And basically it was years in the making. I think it took about 11 years for it to be actually constructed. And because it is in the middle of the Delaware River, there was actually kind of an argument between New Jersey and Delaware of who was actually going to claim that piece of land as theirs. So it took until 11 years for it to become officially done, and what you see there today. Fort Delaware was never built to be a prison. That's not what it was meant for. It was supposed to be just a artillery defense on the coast. So any enemy ships coming up the Delaware River between Fort Delaware, Fort DuPont, and Fort Mott, which is directly across the river from Fort Delaware on the New Jersey side, if any enemy ships were coming up to try to attack the ports of Wilmington or Philadelphia, basically they wouldn't have a chance because they couldn't get past all three forts. So it wasn't until like 1862 that they started taking prisoners in. And they were Confederate prisoners, captured in Gettysburg. And then they also had political prisoners in there. Even, high-ranking officers that were captured in battle were housed at Fort Delaware. So I say they say about 2,500 men passed away on the island there, mostly just from poor health and calorie deficit, diets. They say it's better than Andersonville, the other prison that kept Confederate prisoners in there, but who knows? But they did get meals, which is probably more than maybe some got in other areas like that. And so they just mostly died of just illness, just poor health and poor nutrition. Some tried to escape and drown, try and swim out to the river. But, it's a very active place to this day. The state parks took it over in 1951. And they use it as a living history museum. So the fort actually is not open all year round. It actually is opening up again this year in April 25th. And it remains open all through the summer, where the staff that are there dressed in historical period costumes, and they take you back like you were in 1864. And then we kick off the tours the beginning of October. So it's the first 4 weekends in October. And then pretty much the fort is closed down. After our season ends, they start winterizing everything. And then the fort is down for the winter and it doesn't reopen until springtime again. So it's been a fun journey, doing the tours, and it's still popular, which is really cool to see. I mean, the tours still sell out. So we must be doing something right.
They were thinking 3 years they would have been
Yeah.
good. And we're going into 18.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think there's like an exclusivity kind of aspect to it too. Like I feel like when you have certain locations that are super, super accessible and you can just go whenever, it kind of people it's almost like you want what you can't have. So I
Yeah.
feel like it's super cool when you are able to kind of only go to a location at certain times of year, and you kind of have to, like I had said to you before we hopped on, you only have so much time to really soak it up, and then it leaves
Right.
you wanting more. And I
Right.
could definitely see, having been there now myself, how like that definitely has an effect on you, because I remember coming home and saying to my husband, like, oh, I can't wait, like I want you to come with me next time, because I remember just walking around and the architecture and the history and just how I don't know, there's just like an ambiance to the
Yeah.
grounds. Like when you
Yeah.
walk through that, you kind of cross over that moat and you go through that like
Valley Port area. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know what to call that, but yeah, when you go through it and then you walk into that giant open courtyard and there's like the torches, and there's just something very whimsical and very magical about it, but there's also
Mhm.
kind of like an air of heaviness, so it's also equally as spooky at nighttime.
Yeah.
I haven't had the pleasure to be there in the day, so I'd be interested to see what that is like versus nighttime. But
Mhm.
I just thought it was really cool. And I was like, okay, I need to like somehow come back here and get to soak this in a little bit more, because it's so big.
It is. It is
And
very big.
yeah, so there's so many places to like spend time in and really kind of get a feel for.
Mhm.
So have you have like, so with your new members, I think in our last episode we kind of chatted a little bit about different team members kind of having almost like a magnetic effect, when they
Mhm.
go to the fort, it just
Mhm.
seems like they tend to trigger things. And was it I can't remember who it was on your team that seemed to be they
Well,
always were getting picked on.
yeah, well, when Trey first joined, I think he kind of was a magnet for activity because he was young, which when you think about it, the men there during that time period were probably, in their late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
And he always had a baseball cap on when he was at the fort with us. So activity seemed to like spike when he was around. And I think it was more like, hey, this guy looks familiar. He kind of looks like us. So I don't know if the new people, I think they're just super excited. They're so excited, and they all come with experience of investigating. But it's kind of new for them to be there at the fort on our side. They've attended the tours, but they've never been on our side. So it's fun to see them get excited over things, because after a while, I mean, honestly, for us who've been doing it forever, it's like, oh yeah, okay. But it's fun. It's exciting to see the new folks, get really excited about something happening. And I don't know if they've attracted any more attention or spiked up activity since they've joined. What do you think?
We were talking about this the other day. Kyle was saying that he thinks that the older he gets, the less activity he gets at the fort.
Really?
Really makes no sense. But part of it, I think, is excitement.
Mm-hmm.
And we, like Gene said, we're used to it. And we know what happens and we know what we want to happen. But you can't just call, oh, okay, come on out and do your stuff because everybody's here. It doesn't work. I wish it did.
Mm-hmm.
But we do an overnight in the summer and we have the whole place to ourselves. And I said to him, so you're a little less excited going for the tours in October because, we got to control the whole group and blah, 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 and show them around and hope things happen. I said, but when we go in the summer, I said, are you way more excited? And he's like, oh, yeah. And I said, you're right. And we get more activity in this. I think it's exciting. We get groups in, you know, and you bring, you know, group comes in and you do your thing. You know, this is what we've had happen, blah blah blah. But it's your investigation, and we want you to investigate. And we're here to. And we literally we're like, okay, go ahead. And we literally get groups that just stand there and stare at us. And I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not a ghost. I'm not. You have to go and do the stuff.
yeah.
But then you get the groups that are like, they got their equipment, they're all excited, and they go, and things happen.
Yeah.
So I think it's the amount of energy that you bring help things happen. The weirdest thing is 2020 during COVID.
Yeah,
they opened it up for way less people to come. Everybody had to wear a mask. Blah blah blah. It was very. But
very
the fort
controlled.
was pretty much closed for that the whole time. And my wife said when I left for the first night, she said, well, maybe it'll be really active because the ghost missed you guys. And I like, yep, that's what's going to happen. Every single night in 2020, we had activity everywhere. It was not, it was almost like they did. They're like, oh God, people are here. And we had stuff happening all the time.
But I think people were more ramped up, got out of the house, you know?
Yeah.
It kind of backs up that intention theory. Like, I feel like the one thing that I keep commonly seeing in the paranormal is intention, and energy is just everything. And if the evidence that I feel like a lot of paranormal investigators have found is that, you know, these entities, you know, whatever we want to call them, are feeding off energy that 100% aligns. Because if you're coming in with some stank ass energy and you're kind of like, like, who's gonna want, like, you know what I'm saying? That's like feeding somebody like toad stew and being like, here, you know, take this. They're gonna be like, oh, I don't want that. So like,
and we
if you put an all you can eat buffet there, they're gonna be like, this is great. You know.
We even say that about the groups, you know, like some groups come in, they're full of energy, sometimes for the wrong reasons, and you need them to calm down so you can do something. And then there's other groups that, like Andy said, like they just stand there and stare at you. And this is why I always tell the groups the moment they get off the tram, look, is Fort Delaware haunted? Yes, it's haunted. But can we make it be active tonight? No, we can't, because we're guests in their house. And just like you don't like a stranger showing up at your house demanding to be entertained, it's the same thing here. You know, you got to go in with respect. You got to be polite. But we also encourage everybody, like, participate, you know, ask your questions. Like, I think a lot of people are like, well, we don't know what question to ask. It's okay. Like, you know, we can guide you on that. But I mean, one time Adam and we were over in the laundry room and this group came in and they just stood in a semicircle in front of us. And Adam and I were like, hey, welcome. You know, we're so, like, try to be really upbeat. We're so excited to have you guys here. And they just, like, it fell so flat.
Adam will yell at.
Like, they just, like, no response. And Adam's like, okay, I'm going to need you all to pick up your energy, because, like, we need to get more excited about this. So I think, that, you know, it does go off of energy. Like, if you come in there with baggage, personal baggage, you know, sometimes it can be not a good thing for you. But yeah, I think, you know, I find respect there. If you're respectful, they're going to be more apt to.
Yeah, we never go and yelling at people
than not.
Yeah. I think it's so, like, another thing that, like, something that, like, I've thought about heavily in the background is, like, I wish we could see more kind of like introductions to ghost hunting, because kind of speaking to that, like, as somebody who I haven't been in it long enough to be considered experienced, but I'm also not rookie, like super rookie, that, like, I'm shy. Not that I've ever been shy, but like, like, I feel like when I went into a space for my very first like investigation, I kind of, like, to what you said, like, I didn't know the questions to ask. And also, like, I feel like a lot of people feel really silly. Like, I feel like unless, you know, you're used to kind of like, you know, talking out loud and kind of like, you know, when you're cleaning your house and you're just having conversations with yourself and you're just kind of like, okay, this, and that. And I feel like when you have to then do that in front of other people
Others.
that you
Yes,
have no idea,
Yeah.
I feel like that can be really daunting. And I'm like, I would love, like, I don't know if it's something that like you guys would ever consider, but I feel like you guys would be really good at it, like leading like like a how to. I don't know if you've ever done that, or if it's something you'd ever consider, but I think you guys would be really great at hosting kind of like a investigation 101 and kind of
Mhm.
helping people to practice that, just no matter how silly it sounds. I mean, obviously with respect in mind, don't say something like totally out of left field, but like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the things that I see all the time. And it's like, you just gotta ask the question, and you just
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
do
get
the
past
thing.
that.
Yeah. You got to get
Yeah.
past the
And
feeling.
so I say it all the time
being
to people. I
awkward.
said, I know, because people don't ask questions. They don't know what to ask. And I get it. Everybody's that way when you start. I was kind of the same way.
Yeah.
And I tell them, I said, I know you feel stupid talking to nobody. You're just sitting in the dark and you're asking questions to nobody. I said, but that's what you do. That's what we do. I said, no question is well, there are stupid questions, but within reason.
And
it is hard to.
We do a 101.
Yeah.
We usually do it at Bellevue,
Mhm.
at the mansion up there. Like we've done it for the past few years, a couple times a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Cool.
that is more like that 101. We go over our equipment. Like we go over what equipment does, the uses of it, what it's for, and all that, which Matt, my son Matt, who's on the team, can get really in depth with all that, to the point where I have
He was teaching me when I was at like Samuel Miller Mansion.
Oh yeah.
I was like, Matt could absolutely match my freak, because like I was like, wait, what are you doing with that? And like, I'm sure he was I felt like the kid's sister, because I'm standing over his shoulder and I'm like, why is that beeping? Why does that look like that? And like, I'm sure he's like, oh my God, lady. But I like,
loves
you
that.
want to know, I'm like, you want to know how it works? And he was like, well, if we do this and we do this, and then this will give this result. And I'm like, this is fantastic, because that's how my brain works. Like, I need to know the who, what, why, where, when, because otherwise I'm like, well, I don't know if I trust that.
Yeah. And that's part. So we do that. And then we also, the other fun kind of thing we do is we pull some evidence off of our website. Some of it's visual and some of it's audio, and we'll either show it or play it. And some of the visual stuff is really, it's not paranormal. And we'll put it up there and go, what do you think this is? And they'll say, oh, it's like a shadow of a ghost. We're like, nope, it's somebody's breath, because they were cold.
That one right
It was actually Morgan's. Yeah. So, but it's just, kind of make people think. And then we'll bring up EVPs and go, what do you think it says? And they'll like, play it again, like get excited. And once they hear it and realize what is being said, they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. So then we take everything that we kind of taught them in 20 minutes, and then we break them out into smaller groups, and then we go investigate with them. So that's super fun to do too. Go back and review it. Listen for yourself. Definitely weird when yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
When
for sure.
I think as to like getting people to ask, some people, so fine with talking around other people, strangers. So when they're in those groups, and some people are more reserved. It's just comfort, and it's just the more you do it, the more comfortable you get doing it. And then we always tell people kind of like what I always I have success in about. So you can kind of go down that road. I think it's funny. We were talking about like that and asking questions and energy. And I was just thinking about like how we've had like younger kids on some of the tours, and years ago we had junior investigators where it was like kids under 13. They came out in the afternoon and we did it with them. And they don't have those inhibitions. And they'll get so much activity, because they're not like us, like, oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing,
Yeah. I mean, they'll just ask you like questions like, what's your favorite flavor ice cream? Like,
they don't,
whatever they want.
They don't
really
care.
Funny to watch. Yeah.
It's so true though, because my daughter
the energy.
Yeah. Yeah, my daughter, we brought her to a couple of different locations, but I was so impressed by her. I mean, sometimes she comes out of left field and I'm like, "Oh, Maisie, let dial it down." Like I'm like, "Don't ask that." Like, but
Mm-hmm.
she for the most part, I think it was Penhurst we took her to. We went into one of the basements and she there were supposedly like children in that area, and so she
Mm-hmm.
loves her favorite thing is the EMF reader. I don't know why. She just likes to hold it, and then when it spikes, she gets very excited. So she's all
Yep.
about it. So she like will sit there and just hold it in the air, and then it starts to spike, and she's like, "Who's there?" She's like, "What's your name? Do you like peanut butter and jelly?" And I'm like, and then like it works though. The flashlight's going crazy, the REM pod, and I'm like,
No, it does. It does.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I've sat in this basement
Everywhere.
literally, I'm like, I've sat in this basement like 7 times for like 8 hours and nothing. And I'm like, she comes in here asking if we like peanut butter and jelly, and she gets all
Yeah.
the responses.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's so true.
It's that young vibe.
And the energy. That's what it's.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
We had a group. We brought a group of the parks people out. When did we do that? It was like
It was in October.
November.
No, it was October during the week. It was a weekday.
It was the end of October.
We wanted to see how this whole thing ran. You know how we
It was
did.
yeah. It was DENREC. It was the head of DENREC, which is Delaware Environmental Natural
Resources.
Yeah. So it was all these high up people that kind
so
of
we took them out to show them, you know, how it works or whatever. And they, I think, thought that they were just going to follow us around and watch us do things.
It was just
and
me
before
and
we
Andy.
even got on the boat, I said, "You're going to be doing this. You know, we're giving you the equipment, and you're going to be asking the questions, and you're going to be investigating. You're not going to stand around watching." And they were like, kind of like, "Huh? What?" and at first they were kind of like, "Oh, I don't know what to ask." And we had there was a couple of people who were a little nervous, but they got into it. I mean, they had a blast. They were good. They're like, "Where can we go now? What can we do now?" They were all over the place.
Yeah.
It's addicting.
They went.
Yeah. And at the end, they were like, "Oh my God, that was so much fun." But these are like higher up people in DENREC, who some of them are, you know, corporate or whatever. They had never even been to Fort Delaware. So that was like their first time even seeing the fort. And then you throw them in there and it's dark. And then we're like, okay, here you go. You know, we kind of got them started, but Andy and I just kind of stood back and let them investigate. And once they got into it, it was like really cool. They had a blast. Yeah.
Isn't it great when like you get to see, it's almost like one of the things that I think that I fell in love with about investigating is it kind of taps into that childlike wonder. Cause like when you're young, you know, and you're playing manhunt with your friends and you're going to like, I don't know about you guys. I know it's very like different with like even teenagers nowadays, but I know like in the 90s, like when I was growing up, we would just like go to the park, or we'd ride our bikes around town, and like we would just try new places, and urban, you know, exploring is I guess what they call it nowadays. But you know, that was like, it just brings back that fun kind of adrenaline rush and that childlike wonder. And I feel like it's really cool to see people who are like in very adult, you know, kind of professions be able to like take these tools out, and then they get really giddy and they're kicking their feet because they heard a knock, or like I don't know, it's like seeing it through fresh eyes, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it's fun for me personally to have a group come in who are curious, but they don't know much about any of it, right? And then you kind of go through the steps and show them how the equipment works and get them started, and then kind of watch them investigate, you know, like kind of stepping back and investigating. And I think, you know, that's more groups should allow people to do that, because, you know, you got to give them the opportunity to investigate. And it's kind of nice just to be able to watch some people go, yeah, that's great, I want to do that. And then, you know, aren't afraid to step out of their comfort zone a little bit and do that.
The one thing that I never ask, and I'm pretty sure most of us don't, or all of us, is, do you know you're dead? How long have you been dead?
Yeah.
What if they don't know? I don't want to be the guy who tells them.
True.
And I'll get people in there and be like, "Hey, are you dead? You've been dead for a while." And I'm like, no, I get nothing ever.
Andy's like, I don't want to be the pea in their Cheerios today.
Right?
You know, Like, imagine if you were the ghost, like, oh, hey, there's people here. I'm going to talk to them. Hey, how long you been dead? They'd be like, huh?
What?
And they just leave. Well, so much for that.
Yeah,
That's a good point. It's a good point.
We never asked that.
No.
Okay, so for our listeners, on the number 1 do not ask list, that straight from Andy, do not ask, do not be the bad news, the bearer of bad news.
I don't even say, are there spirits here? I just say, is anybody here? Is, and if we know who we think it is, we'll ask, Susan in the kitchen. Susan, are you in?
Yeah, we have names for a few things.
Yeah.
Which is helpful. Yeah.
But a lot of places we go to, we don't know who it is.
What is your favorite spot? I'll pose that to each of you individually. What is your favorite spot at the fort?
Am I going first? I think it used to be like the officers' quarters, but as of late, it's been like Battery Torbit, which is, I can't remember. I think you went in there, Morgan. It's the concrete structure.
Just a long hallway.
Like a long hallway. It's kind of like a big capital E. It has a bunch of hallways off of it.
It's all cement.
It's not Civil War period. It's post-Civil War.
Yeah.
I think that's the place I was trying to think of earlier, because I think we heard the cannons in there. Yeah, we heard like a weird phantom sound. Like it was like we heard these big like booms, and we couldn't figure out where it was coming from.
Could have been there, or the basement. I firmly believe there is a male entity. Justin called Gene I do believe that there is a male entity that haunts that section.
Well,
we've seen him. We've heard him. He's been in there when we've been in there. Like
many times.
He will show himself.
Oh,
with no problem.
I wonder if he was the shadow. So was that the last place we did on the tour?
I can't remember if that might have been. I
think there was like it seemed like there was like it was a long straight. I mean, there was to the left there was this room that almost looked like maybe the ceiling was caved in, or like there was something blew through the top of it. I think
could have been. And
then it was like to the right, you went down that long. It was all concrete, and then there were like little rooms. Yeah. Okay, because that was where there was like cannons that we heard, and I remember we were like looking for any of it, and I think you had walkie-talkie to check to see if anybody else had heard it, and there was like nobody. We couldn't figure out where it came from, and it was pretty loud. And then that was where I saw a male, and like it was like what I thought was a dark shadow, but it was like probably 6 foot. Like it was pretty like a tall man. It had a very like masculine outline. And I had put that in my notes over here to talk about, because that was like the 2 things in that specific area that I very well remember, because we stayed at the very end and we did like Estes and I think like Spirit Box, and we had gotten some really interesting stuff down there.
Yeah, he whoever, I honestly don't know what time period he would be from. He could be Civil War or post-Civil War, because at one point that fort was used during World War I and World War II, so could be really from any time frame. But I mean, we've been standing outside during the overnight and just standing outside the doorways there and listening, and you can clearly hear like these footsteps, heavy footsteps coming down the hallway. Andy and I were investigating one night. He thought I was standing next to him or in front of him. I was up the hallway, so what he saw was standing between the two of us.
Yeah, it was between us. It was weird.
And funny enough, one night when Daryl was over, he and Andy was in Battery Torbit, and he and I went in there, and I was telling Daryl about this shadow figure of what we think is a man in that area. So he kind of was like meandering through the area, down the hallway.
I had a group, and I had seen this figure come in from outside and go into this room. I just watched him walk right in. So I went, and there was nobody there. And then they came in.
Yeah. And so Daryl was over with us for the night, like our guest. And So he starts walking, just walking down the hallway there, and he starts heading towards the back. And there was, the guests were there, public were there. And so they were milling around, people were stopping and asking him questions. And I see him go around the corner. And a few minutes later, he came back out.
I went to
yeah. And he came up to me and Andy, goes, I think I just found your guy. He thought he was following somebody. Like, oh, let me see where this goes. Kind of following a person from the public. He thought he was following them just to see where the hallway went, see what they were doing. There was nobody there. So, he was obviously following somebody, but it's become one of my favorite areas, especially that area.
That was a really, really cool area. I think those are my two, the kitchen and that were probably my two most memorable. Mm-hmm. And I really liked the one where we had to put the shoes on. The dungeons?
Oh, so that would have been
no dungeons.
No dungeons.
Both Battery Torbit and the casemates.
Battery Torbit and the
casemates. I couldn't think of the name. I was like, okay, the casemates. I just thought the casemates, I didn't get a ton of activity. We did have a cool Estes method, an Estes session in there, and we got some really interesting answers. And I think there was, I want to say there was like a historian or something in our group.
Yeah. So the historical interpreters lead the group through to their locations. So that's where you get your history. So
yeah,
each group has a interpreter from the fort who gives you the history of each location as you're going.
Okay.
So you got to know the history. So that's what
it was cool to have him kind of sit in on that, because it was only, I think, like maybe 5 of us in like a circle, and he was like, oh, I want to see what this is about, and so he sat with us, and they were kind of like, just spewing the stuff out of the spirit box. And he was like, oh, that's interesting because that ties to this. And that would, and we were like, this is really cool to be getting like this live validation, because usually you record that and then you kind of like go back and see if you can kind of match it. But to have somebody in real time as we were kind of filming saying like, hey, yes, this is confirmed. That's really cool that you picked that up. And again, I wish it was fresh in my mind, but there was one specific detail that he was particularly shocked by, and I remember it was something it obviously was something historical, but it was something that he was like, that's not very well known, and he was like, that's very interesting that we had picked up on it on the spirit box and it had come through, and he's like, that's something you don't typically get a lot. He's like, that's really cool. And he was kind of geeking out about it because he was very excited. I was like, yes. I was like, we got something cool. So I thought that was pretty cool in the casemates, but I would say I thought that Torbit and the kitchen were probably the most active that night.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
I've had activity in every single place in the fort, but I tend to agree that Battery lately, past few years, has been extremely active. I've gotten cool stuff in the casemates. One of the best activity I ever had was actually in the ordnance, and we had a group in. It was the extended tour. We took them in there, and I started telling them, we hear footsteps upstairs, and we have blah blah blah. And when I said we have footsteps upstairs, this guy goes like this, and you could literally hear somebody walking around up there. I mean, loud. It wasn't, are those footsteps? You could hear them walking across, and there's nobody up there. So we're like, I go, okay, cool. I go, well, if you're up there, I go, can you come downstairs and do something down here? And we listened to it walk down the stairs. And these people, me too, kind of were like, holy cow. And it came through, and it went in the other room, and it knocked something over, and then went back upstairs. And this went on like the whole time we were in there. So Don at the time was the interpreter taking people around, and he said, all right, we're gonna leave. If you could do one more thing for us. He says, we have lockers up there, which is because that's where they put on their uniforms and stuff. He says, we have lockers up there. If you can go on, knock one of those lockers. And we listened to it walk across the floor and just bang on the lockers. That is good. And the guy goes, there's somebody up there. I took the whole group up. They were like, you've got to be kidding me. I go, dude, I'm telling you, this is how it works.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So those are like two of my favorite places.
Okay. Good answers. Good answers. What about you, Mo?
What do I win? Sit down, Mo. You got nothing.
I know. No, I've had as little sometimes, but I've had something everywhere, like Andy said. But I'm always partial to the kitchen. I just think I have more to say because I'm talking to someone, Miss Susan, So, but it has been a little bit on the quiet side lately. She's been kind of quiet, but I do like the kitchen. And I do like the officers' quarters again, but kind of quiet. Ever since our incident on that overnight.
Oh God,
Yeah.
I haven't had much when I've been up there.
So
I was up there several times this last year. It's been really quiet.
Told Morgan about that story, did we? Our incident.
Yeah. So
I knew when she said the incident, I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, when you have to call something the incident, I'm like, it's usually not good.
We're on our summer overnight, and somebody says, I was Gina or somebody, right? You said you heard people walking around downstairs. So we all get together and we go upstairs and we sit in the parlor, and it was everybody that was there plus a couple state people. And we sat there and we just over and over heard walking and talking men downstairs. Everybody that was on the island was upstairs. And we hear them coming up the steps and out in that little hallway out there. And then the door is knocking. Now it was. Yeah. Oh, and the vibrate the thing that senses vibrations. Yeah. And the door's knocking. To be completely honest, that when it was windy, so we were kind of getting like, sometimes it gets like a wind tunnel up there, and
you get that little.
And honestly, but that door was shutting because that door doesn't shut right anymore. But at that point in time, you could shut it and it would stay shut, and it would rattle with the wind. But it was like somebody was kicking it a couple times. So I say, Andy's sitting by the door.
Next to the door to where it opens like.
I say, who's knocking at my parlor door? And the door just boom opens, and Andy jumped like a cartoon with his feet going.
I was going. Somebody's gonna punch me in the head.
He scared me. I screamed because he jumped so high.
That's what we like to call a body before mind reaction.
Exactly. And we're all like, oh my God.
The thing is, I had my real-time audio on.
Yeah, I did too.
Real-time audio on. Trey was sitting next to me. He had his real-time audio on. So the sound of the door, not to mention everybody's reaction, blew our eardrums out. But that was definitely not the wind, because we had the door.
No,
open.
the wind was rattling it.
Yeah,
and rattling the windows. But that door. Oh yeah, Andy says he heard the doorknob right before.
You could hear it in the record. We have it.
I probably could hear it. Yeah, I'm sure I did.
And it's
because I could hear.
It didn't just open.
It opened.
Right. That's wild.
And we could I mean, not loud and clear because I don't know what they were saying, but you heard the men talking, you heard them walking in the real time, but everybody heard it, not just.
Yeah, we could hear
it was just loud in the real time.
It sounded like they were having a meeting.
I went out like 3 times. It was down there.
That's so crazy.
But everybody on the team that was there for the overnight and the 2 Fort staff people that stayed with us, we were all accounted for in that room. So there was nobody else on the island but us.
Oh, that's spooky.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's probably the craziest.
That was,
Did you guys pay attention at all to what was kind of happening before? Was there any? I don't know. I always think it's really interesting to take kind of clock what's going on environmentally or who you have with you and see if that was an influence. Did you guys find anything that might have influenced that kind of reaction or that energy charge, because
No.
it seems like this is like never really happened before. So I think that that's
no. Yeah, no, I don't. It was
we've had
just.
stuff there.
I mean, we had
Not
stuff
that
there,
bad.
but that was like, I
Mhm.
don't want to say violent, but I mean, it was forceful.
It was loud.
Aggressive.
It was
sounds like-
loudest. Some of the loudest.
It was not a,
footsteps,
oh, look, the
loudest.
door opened. It was like somebody's,
Mhm.
get out of my way. I
Mhm.
did.
Yeah, boom,
Mhm.
dang.
like shoved it
So,
open.
yeah, no, it was. And then after that, everything kind of
It
went
got
quiet.
Mhm.
I mean, we all slept up there that night, and it was quiet.
Hmm.
So,
That's very interesting.
and then for the extended last year, I had a
Oh.
group. One of the stops that we do on the extended tour is the prisoner barracks, which is just outside the fort. Typically, it's a very boring area to
Is
be
it that
in.
white building with all the bunks? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. And so the group that I had, 3 of the ladies were from the UK that had come over for the tour. So we were in that barracks, and it was probably almost midnight, and we all just kind of sat down on the wooden beds or bunks, whatever you want to call them. I had a millimeter out. We had maybe some other piece of equipment. So Sean, who's one of the historical interpreters who's been doing the tours with me since the beginning, was our fort guide. And so I said to him, I said, do you happen to have any like songs from the Civil War period, that we could play? Because sometimes I know you play songs from that time frame, especially down in the barracks. That kind of helps pick up activity. So he's like, yeah, I do. So he started playing songs. And then he also just started sharing tidbits of information about the war. Well, the barracks door was open, so you could see straight outside. They had a lantern up on the deck part, like you go up you go up some steps, and then there's like a little deck landing, and then you go into barracks. So you could see the lantern, flickering out on the little deck portion there. And then you could see the fort out in the distance, with the lanterns going. So we always tell everybody, if you when you take pictures, take more than one. Stand perfectly still and take more than one, because you want to be. Hi, Wesley. So you want to take more than one because you need a contrast and comparison. So as we're sitting there in the dark, the girl next to me, her name was Sue. I see her pick up her phone and she just starts snapping photos. And prior to her snapping photos, I thought I heard somebody like coming up those steps outside, and then kind of looked, and I'm like, oh, nobody's out there. So she starts snapping off 4 or 5 pictures, and then I see her go through it, and then I feel her tap my knee in the dark, and she goes, "What? Look at this." Andy brought the picture up. Hopefully you guys can see it.
Well, this is, let's see if I can do this. That's looking out. She took 4 shots, and 3 of them look just like this.
Okay.
There's nobody there. Nobody's moving anywhere. And then in the 3rd of the 4 shots, there's that.
That's spooky.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It reminds me
As
of one of
crazy
those.
as-
Have you seen like the people make them like paper mache, I think is the right
Mhm.
word, like those ghosts that are kind of like sitting.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
It reminds me of like a dark version of that, the way that it's like.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see through
you
this
can
one.
see through it.
It's-
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
spooky.
Mm-hmm.
And that is our prime example of
Take
take
more
more
than
than
one
one
shot.
photo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she gave them all to us with all the timestamps and everything, all the data. So if anybody has
the
any
fact that you
problems
right
with
next
it, they
to
could
you the
see
whole
all
time
that.
going, "Oh."
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
really cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. So yeah, it's always, we always encourage people to take photos too, because you never know. We had a lady take photos in the battery toilet one night.
She got
and
that guy. We think.
She captured an image of what appears to be a soldier walking down the hallway.
Mhm.
That's really cool. I gotta go through.
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't get to go through all of my. I had so much from that night, and I'm like, I really should go through my pictures and send you guys stuff so that you can take a peek through and
Yeah.
see if you catch anything that I don't. Because I had like videos and I even brought like my digital camera because sometimes I don't know. I just feel like I like the digital camera. I don't know why. I feel like sometimes it catches things. But yeah.
I even have a Polaroid camera that I haven't used in a while, but it, does a little, but yeah, I mean, you can't fake a Polaroid image.
Yeah. I've used mine as well. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I haven't caught anything on it, but
neither have I, but if you get something on that, then
that's going to be like thumbtacked to my wall. And I'm going to be like,
yes, for sure.
But so let's get into since we have like 15 minutes or so, let's get into the book. So you guys have let me in on this new adventure that you're kind of embarking on. So, let's share something about that.
A few years ago.
It's a book, it has pages.
Words.
Lots of words.
A few years ago, Melissa, Kyle's wife, had said to us, we should write a book about all our experiences, investigating Fort Delaware. I mean, we've been there since 2009. And we're like, yeah, that's a really great idea. She goes, if you guys send me your stories, I'll put it together. And so it's been in the making for a while, because she's busy. She works full time and travels a lot. She works more than full time. But we did incorporate a big section for the history, which we want to make sure it's right. So recently, just this past week, she shared with me the history section that is for the book. And then I actually sent it to Jake, who's one of the lead historical managers for Fort Delaware, and sent it to him, told him this is what we're doing, please review the history. And it's not anything we're making up. It's stuff that's out there, on the internet, Library of Congress even, but look it over and correct us. I mean, if there's stuff in there we don't want anything that's not correct. So he did. He went through and he, said, maybe not so accurate here. And, he gave us very helpful information. So that'll go back to Melissa. She'll make those corrections. And then I'm going to actually send it back to Jake for his final approval. So a big section of it is the historical component. Andy designed the book cover, which is really cool.
I was going to ask that. I was like, are we going to have any Andy illustrations?
Yeah, cover. Boom. And
and it'll have pictures of the rooms that we investigate, and then the stories that coincide with it. So, and then in the back of the book, she has a glossary of terms and things like that. So, cool. Like I said, our goal, we still got to figure out, I guess we're going to be self-publishing, but it's something we're working on. And, I would love to see it be published by the end of this year. Cool. Even in time for the tours, and I did tell Parks because, Fort Delaware, they're all about the history. They appreciate us coming there in October and helping them raise funds, but they're very, very protective of the historical part of that fort and very beyond hesitant to let anybody in there outside of our group to do any kind of paranormal tours. Like, if they catch you investigating over there in the summertime, you're going to be,
they shoot you.
You're going to be on the first ferry back. Like they have low tolerance for.
That's probably why it stayed so well preserved and so well respected, because I do feel like as much as I love the paranormal and as much as I love investigating, I do feel like in today's day and age, in a lot of the content creating in the TikTok age, things kind of lose respect and people take advantage and they kind of start making up their own stories. And then, you have people that are like, just trying to go and they have this preconceived notion of history that's never actually taken place. And I would much rather go to a location that has historically accurate, information and is going to give you the real lowdown and not just a bunch of fluff just to make it popular.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the other draw too to these art tours is because they're only in October. I mean, we're the contracted paranormal team for Delaware State Park. So we do the fort and we do events up at Bellevue. But even we can't be investigating inside the fort outside of October, other than they are overnight. but they're just, they've gotten burned by other celebrity teams. One in particular called Tennessee Wrath Chasers. But yeah, so they're very, very, beyond hesitant to let they really won't let anybody in there. And it's funny because we get teams that ask us like, can
all the time,
can you get us into the fort? Nope, they can't. I don't have that.
I don't own the fort. I don't have a key.
They're just, they're cautious, and rightly so.
Yeah. And so another thing that I want to kind of ask about too is you touched on Bellevue.
Mm-hmm.
So a location I have not yet been to, but what's the lowdown with Bellevue?
So Bellevue is a beautiful old mansion up here in North Wilmington, run by Delaware State Parks. It was a DuPont home. Beautiful, beautiful. It's like a huge state park, and you could bring your daughter up. It's got all sorts of playgrounds, and there's a pond, people fish and all that. But anyways, about once a year, because it's a big venue for weddings. So we're always competing with the caterer because there's
so we've done like once, twice a year.
We would love to do more up there, but it's a place where they're always having weddings. So usually in November, like just before Thanksgiving, but after we're done with the fort, we'll do a paranormal 101 an investigation. It is it's smaller groups. It's like, I think they only sell 30 or 40 tickets. And it's a shorter time. It's like 7 to midnight or whatever the time frame is. But again, they get to, learn about the equipment. We share some of our experiences from there. They get to listen to audio and see photos, and then
and that place is haunted.
Yeah. All right. So
and it's awesome.
Why do you say that?
Oh man. We have my favorite EVP where we separated girls, boys, and the girls went to the basement. And when you go to the basement at Bellevue, used to be.
Oh, she froze.
Died.
I think she froze.
That's what happened.
Bellevue said, we're not talking about this today.
You can't talk about it.
Mo, come back.
Bellevue's like, don't tell our secrets. Leave a little mystery in the air.
Really froze up.
Look at her.
So she the girls went down to the basement. Oh, here she is. Okay, Mo.
Everybody in my house
we're gonna take a clip of that. We're gonna take a clip of your frozen face, and that's gonna be the episode graphic.
We switched. We were in the basement. It used to be his billiard room. We were down there. It's like 2:00 in the morning. We're not hearing or seeing anything. And we just started getting tired and silly. And it was me and 2 other girls, and one of them asked, "Did you do naughty things down here?" And there's like immediately, "No."
Clear as a bell.
Yeah, in a man's voice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
And I've actually seen something there. Footsteps all the time. One time we were there and we were sitting up at the top of the big stairwell, and it sounded like a party was going on downstairs. Just the chatter. It was
staff member that was
crazy.
Was like thoroughly freaked out.
Matter
of fact, he was like, he had to go in after we were done. He had to go in and lock the building up one night when we were there, and he's like, please don't leave me. Like,
we waited for him.
We had to wait for him and walk him out because he was like thoroughly freaked out.
That's fantastic.
I was in the basement with Melissa, Adam, and Trey, and we know nobody was on the floor above us. And you can hear, it's not little footsteps, it's just people walking through that room. So I go up and see who's there. Adam goes up, he goes, dude, there's nobody here. And we could still hear the footsteps. So he went up, Trey went up. Trey sat at one door, Adam sat at the other door. So they had the whole room covered, and Melissa and I were in the basement. And he said, tell us if you hear anything. So we waited, and then pretty soon just stomp right through the room. I'm like, who is there? Who's there? And he's like, nobody. There's nobody in the room. And you could just hear them walking through the room.
I think that's happened with all. That happened when one of the last times we were there by ourselves. Just us.
Mm-hmm. And I think
the same thing.
Little
like right above you, it was like somebody standing.
Oh yeah.
the first time, Morgan, they ever asked us to come up and investigate is when we were Delaware ghost hunters. And they're like, can you guys just come up and investigate? Because the staff were so freaked out by the attic. Like they feel it's just like servants' quarters. And so they were like, they feel a presence
Children's
up
rooms
there.
and so forth,
Children's rooms were up there. And we did the investigation, and 90% of the activity came from the basement. So when we did their evidence review, like half of their park office showed up because they wanted to know what was going on. And we're like, how you think it's all up in the attic? And they're like, yeah. And we're like, it's not quite all up in the attic. Some of it's in the basement. And the look on their face was like, because now they got to deal with being scared in both places. But there is, Andy saw a little girl up there.
No, I didn't see her, but I heard her.
Oh, you heard her.
It sounds like a little girl talking. And we had a music box set up. And it's basically a motion sensor. So if something moves in front of it, it'll play music. And we usually put it where nobody will, because people keep walking in front of them. It's like, what's the point? So we aim it somewhere where people aren't going to be able to walk through. And we heard her, kind of like coming up the stairs there. And you can sort of hear her like talking, whatever. So we started talking to her and I said, hey, there's a little box over there. If you walk in front of it, it'll play music. And within 30 seconds, the music box goes off. And I said, can you move away? And it stopped. So we waited a little while. Can you do it again? She walked in front, set it off. Happened like 4 times.
That's awesome.
Yeah. You can hear her. I actually saw, we were up there and I saw like a little, who was sitting in the doorway?
It was me and you and Kyle.
Yeah, but there was somebody else was there, like sitting on the floor in between. Like I was on one side of the room and he was on the other.
Me.
And this little person just ran through. I saw this little, just ran right through us. I don't know what it was.
And he didn't tell me about it until like a year
I was
later.
Like looking, going, what the heck was
He's
that?
like, remember that night we were at Bellevue?
See, it's so funny because we were saying, how like alive children are very active and they always draw on a lot of activity. I love spirit children. Like I feel like they are so much fun to interact with. And like I always get such a kick out of like when we have like a REM pod and it's just like beep, beep, beep. Like and it's just like typical kid behavior. Like they're sitting there just kind of like don't press the red button and they're just sitting there like just hitting it over and over again. And I'm like, oh, it's 100% a child spirit.
I kind of have a soft spot for spirit children because as a mom, it's like, my God, these little ones walking around, not realizing.
And we don't tell them they're dead.
And we don't tell them. So.
We're circling back to Andy's number 1 rule. That is fantastic. But it is so much fun. I definitely, hopefully maybe one day, even though I don't necessarily know that I would need like a 101, I kind of want to go to a 101 at Bellevue because I think it would be a really cool experience. I've never been there. I've heard of it, but never been there.
You'll have
to. Next time we'll do it, we'll let you know.
I feel like that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. We were doing it March and actually April, November, but the weddings, people just want to get married at Bellevue. So
Kyle,
I've heard it's pretty fabulous.
It is. Yeah. It's beautiful. It is a beautiful spot.
Yeah, it's a nice place.
So is there anything else going on with you guys that you want our listeners to know about before we kind of wrap up here? Is there any events you're going to be attending?
Yeah, we're actually going to be at Ritz Theater April 18th for a private investigation. Which is in Haddonfield, New Jersey. We're going to be doing in May is a day in Old Newcastle. And we've been asked to go up there. We actually did all the research because they open up all the Victorian homes and gardens and the churches and the cemeteries, and you can tour through those sections. So they had asked us to do the historical research for the cemeteries and the churches, which we did and gave that to them. And then they asked us to have a vendor table up there. So we'll be set up probably by one of the cemeteries for the day and just chatting with people. That's in May. And then August, we're going to Crescent Sanatorium and Prison out in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's going to be
And
fun.
then after, it kind of just kicks in to September, where we're actually, when you talked about the ambiance and the lighting, and That's all of us at the fort. Like that is all of us. What Parks provides is the fort.
Yeah.
Do
with it what you want.
And the pavilion, but we're the ones, putting candle or lanterns up on the
whole fort.
Yeah, putting lanterns up on the fort and decorating.
It definitely adds to it. And also, for listeners that have not been there, the giant freaking turtle that you guys have, he's a beast. I saw him and I was like, what the hell is that? Like, I was like, what is in that moat? And they were like, oh, yeah, that's just the turtle. I'm like, a turtle?
Yeah, we call him
it was like
monster.
A small dinosaur.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When he comes out of the water,
big boy.
He's a big boy.
I saw just like his it looked like maybe it was the top because it was nighttime, but I saw I thought at first maybe it was just like a stone or something in the water. Then it moved and they were like, oh yeah, that's the turtle. And I'm like, oh, that's cute. But then later in the night they were like, just be careful because I guess I don't know if he came up onto that. There's a bank.
Yeah.
It looks like he was up on there and I was like,
yeah,
that's a freaking turtle.
Yeah. He'll go up there and sun himself.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But yeah, so September really is hard for us because we've got to get ready for the fort. And, it's us we have to go over there early and get all set up. We got to give training. We have an annual staff meeting with the fort staff and us. And this year we're going to be doing it over at the fort. So, and then the month of October, we're done for. It's two tours a night for 4 weekends in a row. And it's exhausting. And then we got to reverse all that, break that all down, get it back to our storage unit, and then we go to Bellevue. And so next it's the holidays. So
that's a lot.
By fast.
Well, I am excited to see how your next couple of investigations go. I feel like Crescent is gonna be amazing. So I can't wait to see if you guys post some exciting stuff from there.
Yeah, I hope we do some good
stuff
up there. Yeah.
If it's even half as good as Trans-Allegheny.
Oh, that's another bucket list item. I've heard Trans-Allegheny is awesome.
Nonstop. When you investigate for, we're at the fort, you do, a few hours here and a few hours there. You're tired. You're like, okay, I'm done, whatever. We did Trans-Allegheny from 8:30 at night to 5 in the morning, and every one of us could have gone another 10, 12 hours.
That's amazing.
They were kind of like, you guys need to leave.
We're like,
we're kicking you out.
No.
We're like,
That's awesome.
Yep. So we got some good stuff lined up. We'll keep you posted.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, for some of our newer listeners, if you want to just tell them where they can find you and keep up with your haunted happenings.
Yep. So you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, our website, diamondstakeghostinvestigators.com. And our evidence vault is there. So we got a lot of cool evidence posted up there, and hopefully we'll have more to add to it. But yeah, we're around. We kind of fly on the low. We don't really advertise too much where we're going, especially with a residential private case.
No, never.
We'll never tell anybody where we're at because it's a private case. We don't even say, hey, we're going to a private case. Nobody needs to know that. So you'll never hear us, people may think we're not busy, but it's just because we don't always put it out there. But
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we try to just,
it's for them, though.
Yeah, I mean, if the homeowner gives us permission to share something from their house, or wherever, we do, but we never would post anything about where we are or what's going on or do a live stream or none of that, without full permission. And it's not how we operate anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough for again joining me for a second episode. I think people are going
to catch up with this.
Yes. I feel like schedules are always revolving nowadays. So it's
2024 when you came to the fort.
Yeah, because I was like, I think it's been a couple of years. It just doesn't seem like it's been a couple of years.
So we'll have to get back this year.
Time to do it again.
Yes, I definitely need to get back out because I had a lot of fun the first time. And I think now that I kind of know the lay of the land, I can, really start to kind of get into it the next time. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Have you out there.
Yes, absolutely. But if you are looking for a cool tour to do, highly recommend DSGI's tour at Fort Delaware, which we talked about on this episode. Make sure you check out their links that they mentioned, their websites. Keep an eye out and an ear out for their upcoming book. I'm sure you guys will probably post an announcement whenever it gets close. But yeah, so for all of our listeners, as I always say at the end of every one of our episodes, make sure that you're donating every time you're going to a location. Do your part, be respectful, make sure that we're keeping these fantastic locations that we love to investigate alive by just doing whatever you can. And if you can't contribute money, spread the word, keep it respectful. And that's really all that we can ask. But thanks for joining us on another fabulous episode of the Ghoulfriend Hour. And as always, stay weird, our friends. Bye.